There is no such thing as a coincidence. The fact that you are watching this video means that we're chemically aligned, or whatever he says in that video before he turns a lady to stone. Hi everyone, I'm Elmushterri, and I'm never using that intro again. It's exclusive. Skyward Sword is a game that means so much to me. I may have grown up with Twilight Princess, but over the years I've come to gain an appreciation for Skyward Sword, mainly because of my friends. I'm currently in my third playthrough of it. It's incredible, but obviously it could have been better. Something I would have liked to see is the connections between the regions. You can only travel between them by leaving one and then dropping into the next, which is kinda sad. Also, the sky was a little underwhelming, and the clouds look a bit strange, but that's okay. Came out in 2011. Honestly, my main issue was always how the name of the series is Legend of Zelda and not The Legend of Link. I know that all Zelda fans have thought about this at one point or another. One, they couldn't call it Legend of Link because in most Zelda games you can choose Link's name, and two, because you have to save Zelda in the games most of the time. But I'm not here to rehash the story of Skyward Sword, as much as I love it. I'm here to make Zelda the hero. Here, Hylia's plan doesn't involve using herself as the one who buys time for Link. It involves Link buying time for her, to use the Triforce in her mortal form. Why set up Hylia becoming human if you're not going to use the fact that only humans can use the Triforce? It perfectly justifies both of those, and it means the story can center around Zelda. Also, her story is infinitely more compelling than Link's. It's about a young human girl who enjoys the little things in life, discovering that she's a goddess. And we didn't get her perspective. We were literally robbed. My main inspiration for this were Irish movies like The Song of the Sea and Wolfwalkers, which are amazing by the way, go watch them if you haven't. I wanted to capture that magical sort of energy, and I don't know if I've done it justice. Disclaimer, this isn't going to adhere to all the beats in Skyward Sword since a lot of the game is traveling around and getting sword flames, which I don't think is necessary for a movie or a book format. You know, since it's more interesting in a game where you're controlling the character, but in a movie it would feel repetitive. And second, I'm going to be changing Link's role in the story a little. He's still important, but not as important. You'll see what I do with him. The main focus is Zelda and her inner conflicts. Also, I've written this using the 3-act, 27-chapter structure, so I might break it down into the acts in the video chapter bit in the description. So without further ado, here is my rewrite. The story begins much like the real Skyward Sword does, except we see it from Zelda's perspective. She's getting into her wing ceremony close after having finished making her shawl. She talks to her Loftwing about waiting for Link to come to see her before realizing he's not going to wake up anytime soon, so she decides to pen the letter that you get in the beginning of the game. Then we cut to Link. Zelda's Loftwing spits the letter in his face and he makes his way over to her, again much like in the game. They talk about her outfit for a second before Zelda's father Gaepora appears, which is when Zelda confesses super loudly to him that Link hasn't been practicing for the wing ceremony, so she's worried that he won't be able to become a knight. This leads to the best cutscene in the game where Zelda drags Link to the ledge and pushes him off. Obviously then, she realizes his Loftwing isn't coming and has to go save him. The two go looking for his Loftwing, when Link runs into the best character, Groose. By the way, I don't know if I've said this, but I imagine them all as younger kids here, probably to fit in the style of The Song of the Sea or the Wolfwalkers, since those movies are more about kids. Zelda tells off Groose just like she did in the beginning, and they go and find Link's Loftwing. They come to the edge of the cave next to the waterfall, and right before they see Link's Loftwing, Zelda hears a voice calling her name. Link gets on the back of his Loftwing before noticing Zelda seems consumed with something under the clouds. She tells him that she's been hearing this voice lately. She asks him if he ever wonders what's beneath the clouds, and how she feels like, even though everyone in Skyloft either believes it's a barren wasteland or that there is nothing there at all, she thinks they're wrong. But then Zelda snaps back out of it and tells Link that they've got to get to the ceremony. When they're about to start the wing ceremony, Zelda starts hyping up Link and yelling encouraging words at him, like she does. Skipping over this part a little, Link wins the wing ceremony, something Zelda didn't expect. So she gives him the sailcloth and tells him how glad she is that he won. The two go flying through the clouds on their Loftwings, and it's just very sweet, like in the original. Zelda tells Link that she's always going to remember this day. But just as she stops to say something, like in the real game, they're hit by the tornado. While falling, Link gets the vision of Fi, before waking up to Gaepora and explaining the situation. Gaepora leaves, and Link is left alone for the moment. He leaves his room only to see Fi, who leads him up to the goddess statue. He's in disbelief at first, but once she tells him that the only way he can find Zelda is by taking the sword and going to the surface, he's immediately okay with it. Fi describes some kind of destiny, but doesn't go into very much detail. Unlike in the game, she doesn't say anything about a chosen hero, or him having to vanquish evil. But Link doesn't really care what he's got to do with this, he's just in it to find his friend. Gaepora, who I forgot was also in this scene, tells Link he needs better clothes, which is when Link gets his iconic green knight outfit. Now we're back to Zelda. She's just waking up. An old lady is coming toward her. Obviously, Zelda is confused, so the old lady, called in the game the Ancient One, takes her back to the sealed temple to talk with her over some tea, probably. Zelda's pretty happy because she told everyone in Skyloft that she believes there was something down there at the surface, and now she's been proven right. The Ancient One calms her down and starts telling her that the goddess planned for this to happen. She says that Zelda's destiny is to, quote, abolish the shadow of the apocalypse. Unfortunately, Zelda isn't glad hearing this. She has a lot of self-doubt, and she doesn't know if she can measure up to some destiny. She leaves the sealed temple and goes to Faron, which is where she meets the Kikwis. One of them is being attacked by a Bokoblin group. By the way, is that how you say it? I've heard it being said as Bokoblin, but I don't know, that's just how I've been saying it my whole life. And Zelda wants to help the Kikwi, but she doesn't know how. So she fashions a bow out of her harp, which fell with her, using some sticks as arrows. It's awkward, but it works out. And eventually she just goes in and bonks all the monsters on the head. To calm the Kikwi down, she sings the Ballad of the Goddess for it. And when it comes around to her, she tells it that she sings that song whenever she feels bad or doesn't know what to do in a bad situation. The Kikwi warms up to Zelda. Zelda starts enjoying being in Faron with the Kikwis. She also meets the Kikwi elder Big Man over here. He tells her that the monsters have started appearing all over this place. And after a while, Zelda says something along the lines of, I just got to this world, I can't lose it now. She decides to go back to the sealed temple, where she tells the Ancient One that she's accepted the mission. The old woman is pleased, and tells her that in order for Zelda to awaken her power, she has to pray at each of the springs in the land. The task seems huge, but Zelda accepts, considering this is apparently going to stop the surface from being destroyed. The Ancient One also gives her a white dress to travel in. Meanwhile, Link has also just gotten to Faron. Firstly, he's blown away by the tiny birds and the monsters. It's all very cool to him. Then, once he remembers what he came here for, he goes to ask the Kikwis where Zelda's gone, and then follows to the sealed temple. This is where the story starts differing. Link and Zelda will be together most of the time. I always had a pet peeve with the game, because in the game you can use your dowsing ability to find when Zelda is near you, and it's canon in the game that she's only like a couple steps ahead, so it makes no sense that we never see her. So the two meet, with Zelda having put on her white dress and being a little unsure of herself, but wanting to help. Link is also surprised by this, but he's accepting of it. They both head to Skyward Temple, but somebody's watching. Side note, I always wondered why Skyward Temple was called that. It's on the surface, there's no view of the sky, and you can't view it from the sky because there's a barrier of whatever. Zelda is jokingly like, why did you get a weapon and I didn't? Because she's stuck with her makeshift bow and arrow. I'm sure there's a lot of banter between the friends, and they also talk about how weird this whole thing is. 1 minute they were in the sky worrying about winning a race, and now they're on the surface traveling to a spring. But obviously they don't understand the weight of everything just yet. This part I'm not going to go into too much detail about. It's just them going through Skyview Temple like you would in the game, but more like a story, since this isn't meant to be played. I have no real description of the temple. At the end, they're about to go into the spring, but Mr. Graham Cracker himself appears. Both Link and Zelda are low-key ready to kick Girahim all the way to next Tuesday, even though they're unexperienced, but Link tells Zelda to just go ahead to the spring, and that he'll catch up with her. Girahim allows this because of his ego. Basically, he thinks he'll be able to finish off Link within 20 seconds, cause bro is speedrunning. Zelda makes her way to the spring where she starts praying. She feels a little silly at first because she doesn't know what's meant to happen, but eventually she gains some kind of vision? One where she's in the perspective of somebody else. Someone is forging a sword with lava. It ends too quickly for her to figure out what's going on, but it leaves her extremely curious. She decides to head off to Eldin, in the direction that her intuition is telling her. She's just trusting her feelings right now. Link eventually finishes the first Girahim battle when Girahim realizes Zelda's left. Link goes to the spring where he receives Fi's message from the goddess, telling him to follow Zelda to Eldin, which he does. It cuts to a little later. Zelda's at Eldin, taking in all the fire and the lava and all that, because she's never seen such a thing before. She's still using her harp/makeshift bow as a weapon, and she meets some Mogmas who take a liking to her and show her to the Earth Temple. Halfway through, she's kinda hating how hard this quest is, so she's losing motivation, basically. And eventually, she's surrounded by monsters that she's unable to fight off with her harp. This is when she's saved by Impa. Zelda's hit by a feeling that she knows this person, but she can't explain it. Impa's really kind to Zelda, so it's kind of like a motherly or big sister relationship. Link also eventually reaches the Earth Temple, but he's miles behind. He hears from a Mogma that a woman in black, implied to be Impa, came before him, which also happens in the game, so he's suspicious already. Back with Zelda and Impa, Zelda has a lot of questions for her, like about who she is or what she's doing here, or if there are any other humans beside her and the old woman back in the sealed temple around the surface. Impa finds these questions endearing, but she can't really answer any of them for reasons. And yay, they eventually make it to the Earth Spring. Link, however, sees Girahim again. I imagine Link can fire a lot of good insults at Girahim, and he's got, like, tween boy energy. Girahim brings the boss Scaldera to life, and Link once again has to be the diversion for the enemies. Zelda starts praying at the Earth Spring, and Impa is sort of visibly nervous for this. Now, Zelda gains a vision of someone, again from their perspective, but this time, she also sees Impa in the vision. The person in the vision tells Impa to come to their aid when they get attacked, and guide them to the spring. Impa in the vision addresses the person that Zelda's experiencing the point of view of as the goddess. Once the vision ends, Zelda is confused, but she starts putting it together. The situation that was spoken about in the vision was the exact same situation Zelda currently finds herself in. It dawns on her that she's getting memories of the goddess. She asks Impa why she's getting the memories of the goddess, and Impa kinda just looks at her and says, "Long ago, the goddess lowered herself to a mortal existence, but she knew she wouldn't have any of her memories when she returned to the world." She says it sort of sympathetically. And that's when it sinks in for Zelda. Everything kinda slows down for her from this point. She walks away from Impa for a second to look at the goddess statue at the spring. Everything falls silent. I was the goddess? Impa looks over at her. There's a lot of silence here. Zelda has no idea what to say or do. So she picks up her harp and starts playing it. Eventually, she asks Impa what Link has to do with all of this, to which Impa says that he's meant to aid her in destroying the evil in the world. Zelda asks what exactly that evil is, and Impa vaguely describes a war that the goddess Hylia had with someone named the Demon King. But she also says that now isn't the right time to go into detail about it. We pan over to see that Link has arrived. He's only understood this vaguely, and he's not given any more time to understand it because Impa immediately starts grilling him about how he was late to catch up to Zelda. Zelda starts giggling at this, which catches Impa off guard.
You laughing, girl?
Since Link being late is something familiar for her among all this unfamiliar information, she's comforted by it. This is another point where the story differs from the real one. Instead of Zelda and Impa leaving, Link also comes with them to Lanayru. This act begins on a higher note. Zelda and Link are still massively surprised by her being Hylia, but Zelda still doesn't feel connected to her. It's just shocking information. So naturally they have a lot of questions for Impa, most of which begin with, "If I'm Hylia, does that mean..." And Impa going, "No." Like that one scene in Shrek 2 with Donkey asking if they're there yet.
Are we there yet? No.
Since they're in Lanayru, they get a lot of interaction with the time shift stones and the little robots. Link does most of the messing with them. Zelda talks to Impa alone at some point, and asks her something like, "Why are we here? Really, why do I have to recover Hylia's memories?" And Impa explains again vaguely to Zelda that Hylia had a secret weapon, but revealed the location to nobody for safety. Zelda asks why Hylia didn't just use this secret weapon herself, why she had to reincarnate, and Impa says she can't reveal that information yet either, because the goddess planned for it to be revealed later. The two make their way back toward Link, with Zelda asking if the goddess planned everything, to which Impa says yes, and that the goddess had perfect prescience, and foresaw obstacles but planned around them. The three get to the Temple of Time, but it's blocked off by fallen debris. Impa says that there is a way to get through, the Lanayru mining facility. And Zelda and Link are like, the Lanayru what now? Because they've never heard of technology. They activate the Lanayru mines in the same fashion that you do in the game, and they enter together. Once again, I haven't planned out the dungeons, but I do know that this dungeon gives Zelda and Link the most frustration for Hylia. While getting into goofy or wacky hijinks, fighting enemies or running on the conveyor belts, Zelda complains about how she keeps getting surprised by all the obstacles that come to them. She says something along the lines of, "For the reincarnation of a goddess with perfect foresight, I sure do keep getting taken by surprise." This is only reinforced when the gang runs into Molderak. Zelda's like, "Could I not have left a note for myself?" They get through Molderak and eventually come out on the other side of the debris. Zelda's like, "Where's the spring?" And Impa tells her that the rest of the memories lie on the other side of the Gate of Time, this giant gear thing in front of them. Zelda is daunted by the task, because it involves going to the past, but Link is actually kinda enthusiastic to go to the past if he can go with Zelda. Impa says that they'll wait for Zelda to open up the gate, but she doesn't actually know how to. Impa says that she only has to do what she's been doing this whole time when she didn't know what to do. And it clicks. Zelda plays the Ballad of the Goddess to the Gate of Time, and it activates. Like in the game, this is when Girahim attacks. Impa tries to block him off, but she can't. So Link does it instead at the last moment. He tells them to go, but Zelda doesn't want to run this time. She doesn't want to leave Link again, so she tries to go toward him and Girahim. But Impa stops her, tells Link to talk to the old lady at the Sealed Temple, and they both end up in the past. A difference from here and the original is that Zelda doesn't give Link her harp, it remains with her. Impa and Zelda both crash onto the ground in past Lanayru Desert. It's nighttime over here, or at least it seems to be due to all the smoke in the sky. Zelda tries to run back toward the Gate of Time, but Impa destroyed the one in the present, meaning this one no longer functions. Zelda blows up at Impa, asking her why she just leave Link there with Girahim. This is when Impa finally tells Zelda the true purpose of Link and the sword. She says that Hylia planned for Link to distract the enemies while she got out of danger. Zelda is absolutely livid at this, because now she's finding out that her best friend's purpose was to be a diversion for her to escape. Impa tries comforting her by telling her that he's going to survive, and that he must survive in order for Zelda to return to the present. Zelda asks what she means, and Impa responds with the fact that the goddess sword, when tempered by the flame, will turn into the Master Sword, which is the key to opening the second gate of time. This, however, doesn't help Zelda because now she realizes she's endangered her best friend not only to distract enemies away from her, but also basically to open a door for her to get back. She can't process this for very long, because the weather starts getting worse. Impa says that they have to make their way back to the sealed temple of the past, or the temple of Hylia, as it was known then. Back on Link's end, he's going to the sealed temple.
Oh my god, what is that?
But our favorite boy Groose joins him.
Oh my god! What is that?
He too is blown away by the tiny birds, and Link is like, I know, right? Link doesn't have too much problems with bringing Groose along, since he has more to worry about. But unfortunately for Groose, the old woman says he's not the one for this task, so he storms off angrily, before the old woman tells Link about the Gate of Time, and how to raise it from the ground. Obviously, since Link doesn't have the harp in my rewrite, it's probably raised with some other magic or ancient mechanism in the temple. Also, they, fight the imprisoned, but that's not really important. The old woman tells him that to get to Zelda, he needs to awaken this Gate of Time, and that to do that, he needs to use a Skyward Strike, but then she tells him that unfortunately, they had to keep this gate safe, so only a tempered Skyward Strike can open it up. The difference here is that instead of 3 flames, I'm just gonna make it 1, because we don't have the time for 3 flames in 3 locations. The most interesting location to me was the ancient cistern, so that's where Link has to go. Groose stops moping around and decides to help him find it. Long story short, they meet the water dragon and they get the sacred water for her, and then Link enters the ancient cistern alone. We cut back to Zelda and Impa, both running through the devastated Hyrule with a storm happening around them. It's cutting at Zelda because, along their travels, she's really gotten attached to the Kiwis, Mogmas, and robots. And seeing everything be dead and destroyed is extremely hard for her. Impa tells her that this is what will become of her world if she's unable to accomplish the mission she planned out for herself. Zelda is terrified, anxious, and now she's being told that if she doesn't pull it together, she's going to lose the world she just found and more. So finally, after so much running, Zelda drops to her knees in the rain. She starts crying about Link, her father, everyone at Skyloft, and the creatures she's met along the way. Eventually, she gets to such a vulnerable point that she recognizes this feeling and actually gets a memory from it. It's a memory of Hylia explaining to seemingly nobody but herself as a way to explain to her future incarnation that she can't use the Triforce due to her status as a goddess, and that only mortals can use it. But due to the war, she doesn't trust anyone but herself right now. She explains that the location of the Triforce is in a place called the Skykeep. And that's when the memory ends. And everything comes into place for Zelda. She realizes exactly what's going on. She stands up and looks at Impa. She's wet from the rain and her dress is muddy. Impa looks at her and bows, knowing that she's assumed the position of Hylia from where she left off. And at this moment, the harp that Zelda's been carrying starts glowing. It's detected Hylia's presence, and it shifts into its original form, the Bow of Light. Zelda tells Impa that they need to go to the Temple of Hylia and wait for Link, who will be opening the second gate of time any moment now. We go back to Link, who is making his way through the ancient cistern. At the end of it, he sees Girahim, who expresses his frustrations about the Gate of Time being destroyed, and then talks about how he knows that there's a second one somewhere. He brings Galactus to life, and once again, Link has to fight it. Once he's done, he finds the sacred flame, and tempers his sword into the unawakened Master Sword. Finally, he goes back to the sealed temple and opens up the second gate of time. When he gets back to Zelda, she's not quite the same person as she was before. She's more serious. She explains everything to Link. About why Hylia had to become human, and what Link has to do with it. She tells him she used him. She tells him she's sorry for using him as a distraction, and she's sorry for using him as a door opener. And that she understands if he doesn't want to continue to work with her anymore. Link is confused. It wasn't her that did this, it was Hylia. He doesn't understand why she's apologizing for Hylia's actions. Zelda moves on and says that they need to go back to the future. And then when she goes to get Impa, Impa doesn't come with her, saying that this is the time she belongs in, but that Zelda will definitely see her again. So Zelda and Link say their goodbyes to Impa. When they go back to the present, Zelda sees the Ancient One and instantly knows it's her. The two hug again, since it's been technically a long time for Impa. And then Link and Zelda finally go back to Skyloft together, so that Zelda can go to the Sky Keep, where she hid the Triforce. She has brief reunions with everyone including her father, but it doesn't seem like she has much time for them, which Link doesn't like. Link eventually tells Zelda that he won't be coming with her to the Sky Keep, since he doesn't want to be a part of this whole plan thing anymore. She's confused, but Link says that he said he'd follow Zelda into anything, not Hylia. Zelda's upset, but she says she understands, and he gives the Master Sword back to her. The Sky Keep functions like it does in the real game, with the puzzles and everything. Zelda does fine with them, but she can't help but miss Link, and so does Fi, who's no longer with him. Long story short, she finds the pieces of the Triforce, and she wishes for the eradication of Demise. Just like it does in the game, the Hylia statue in Skyloft crashes into the imprisoned and kills him. Zelda and Impa are happy, but Zelda feels a little empty. She kinda hoped to share this victory with Link. So she puts the Master Sword into the slot at the back of the sealed temple, and then kinda goes away. And just when she thinks everything is finally okay, Graham Cracker appears, and he's like, "Where's your boy?" He really said no heroes. And Zelda's like, "What are you gonna do? Your master is dead." And then Girahim says that Demise isn't dead in the past, and that all he has to do is use Zelda/Hylia's soul to restore him. And then Zelda pulls out her bow of light and basically says to him, "Then come get it." The fight escalates when Girahim throws Zelda into the Gate of Time. His soul-sucking ritual actually starts over there in the past, mid-fight. However, he ends up not being able to compete with a goddess reincarnated, so she wins. Unfortunately though, about half of her soul's been sucked up, and Girahim counts it as a win, because it's just enough to restore Demise back to his original form. So then, we have Demise, standing in front of Zelda. He looks at her before insulting her new form, saying it pales in comparison to the magnificence of her original goddess form, which is what he says in the game. Zelda tries to dash at him, but with only half of her soul left, she's only got half of her power, so that fails. Demise continues. "Oh, I think I see. You lowered yourself to a human existence in hopes of using the Triforce against me. Is that it? Sometimes I wonder if that famously perfect foresight of yours can be chalked up to your kind being extremely predictable." Demise sort of takes pity on Zelda and says that he'll wait for her in his realm, for when she thinks she's ready to fight him. Something he also does in the game. Zelda meets up with old Impa in the present, who suspects that she won't be able to beat him alone. And with no other option, Zelda goes to Skyloft with the Master Sword and heads to Link. He's basically now a celebrity in the Night Academy, not that he wants to be. She gets a moment alone to beg him to help her. She tries to hand him the Master Sword, but he doesn't take it. He states again that he's friends with Zelda, not Hylia. He refuses. Zelda leaves the room before going to his dorm in the Night Academy, and leaving the Master Sword in his bed with a note attached to it, saying, "I know it won't take you long to find this, sleepyhead." Basically, she's hoping he changes his mind, but she doubts that he will. So she decides to leave Skyloft, to make her final stand against Demise, where she kinda just hopes that she can win against him with pure luck. She says goodbye to everyone, but she doesn't have the heart to tell her father that she thinks she won't come back. Zelda goes back down to the surface and starts walking around Faron Woods, remembering her journey with Link and Impa. It breaks her heart to see the creatures of the woods continue to be happy, not knowing that if Zelda loses one battle to Demise, the whole world will be destroyed. She comes to a small pool of water in the woods and sees herself in the reflection. She looks at the white dress, the purple jewelry, and she starts to wonder if she really is Zelda anymore. She doesn't look like the same girl, she doesn't feel like the same girl. This is when she thinks, Hylia may not have been able to defeat Demise thousands of years ago, but Zelda hasn't tried before. So she heads back to the sealed temple and changes back into her original red dress. She gets rid of all the delicate goddess stuff and ties her hair back up. She picks up her bow and then goes to Demise's realm. We briefly cut to Link, tearing off his bed sheets in order to get into the bed, before seeing the Master Sword and reading the note. Then we cut back to Zelda. Demise is actually a bit surprised that she's decided to face him, but then remarks on how he shouldn't be surprised considering Hylia fought him to the end. Zelda tells him that she isn't Hylia. He's actually a little impressed about this small girl's bravery right now. She says to him, "I am not Hylia. I'm the daughter of a headmaster called Gaepora. I go to school at a little building called the Night Academy, and I'm the best friend of a boy named Link and a resident of Skyloft. My name was Zelda when I fell from the sky, and my name will still be Zelda when I finish you off." And at the very end, she says, "I don't fight for this world because someone else planned it out for me. I fight for this world because it's my home." Demise is kinda like the old, not bad face, but he comments on how foolish it is of her to think shedding her image as Hylia would help her win this. And true to his word, it doesn't. Zelda attempts to fight him with her light power and the bow of light in combination, but it's not good enough with him having absorbed half of her soul. Demise is winning, and he's winning easily. He's huge compared to Zelda, so that doesn't help either. When he's finally driven Zelda to the equivalent of 2 hearts, he tells her that it's kinda admirable that she came to fight him again. He makes his way toward her, and just before he deals the final blow, the Master Sword blocks him. Link has come back for Zelda, and now it's them against Demise. This is what makes the Master Sword important in the story, aside from being a key to the Gate of Time. And this is what makes Link the hero. He wasn't chosen in any huge way by Hylia. He was only supposed to be temporarily involved in her plan. He's made himself important in the story. His choice to come back is what earns him the title of hero, not being chosen. Demise insults both of them about how stupid they are for this, before continuing. Of course, Link and Zelda do far better together. In fact, they start annoying Demise with how much fun they're having together, because they start treating it like a game. Finally, Demise is caught off guard, and Link stabs him while he's down. He gets back up, and tries to continue fighting, but when he looks down at his torso, he sees the other half of Zelda's soul going back into her. With the rest of her soul having come back, Demise knows he's in trouble. She basically powers up, does the Breath of the Wild Zelda thing, and blows this man to golden smithereens. While he's dissolving? While he's dissolving, Demise puts a curse on anyone with the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero, to be followed endlessly by an incarnation of his hatred. And that's how it all begins. With Demise sealed into the Master Sword, Zelda and Link leave his realm, and like in the game, Fi confirms the eradication of the Demon King Demise. They replace the Master Sword in the past this time, and young Impa says that she'll watch over it. So then, Zelda and Link go back over to the present again. Zelda thanks old Impa for everything, before finally, after living for thousands of years to wait for the goddess, Impa passes away. We cut to later on. Like in the post-credits scene, Zelda tells Link that she loves it down here, and she wants to stay. She always wants to have solid ground beneath her feet. She asks Link, "So what'll you do?" And Link decides he wants to explore the rest of the surface, if she'll come with him. Of course, Zelda agrees. It cuts to the two walking off into the woods, and with the bow of light no longer detecting Hylia's aura, it transforms right back into a harp, showing that Zelda has let go of Hylia. And that's the end. I hope I did okay. I tried to stick to some of the main story beats, and that's all I really have left to say about this. It was fun writing this story. Also, I was going to upload a Raya and the Dragon rewrite, but I just ended up not liking the way it came out, which was a shame really because of how long I'd spent on it, but it's okay, I prefer this one, and I hope you do too. Once again, thank you all for 1,000 subscribers, it's incredible. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then I'm building a statue in your honor, and if you didn't, then